They thought they could take everything I loved, but before it was over, the whole neighborhood would be staring at the fence that split our paradise, and the truth, right down the middle. It all started that morning, my hands tightening the final bolt on a 6-foot wall of cedar in spite. The fence cut through the lakefront like a courtroom ruling, clean, final, undeniable. Grass. Dock. Water. Divided. Behind me, a crowd of stunned neighbors stood frozen. Across the line, Margaret, cousin to our infamous HOA president, Karen, clutched her coffee, speechless. Her luxury loungers, half-finished jet ski ramp, her entire little kingdom, all stranded behind that wall of lumber. But to understand how we got here, you have to rewind 5 years. Back when I first bought my dream home in Willowbrook Estates, the kind of place you think will stay perfect forever. It came with deeded lake access, a small beach, and a community dock. Summers were golden. My kids splashed in the shallows, I fished at dusk, and for a while, everything felt peaceful. The lake wasn't just part of my property, it was part of our lives. Then came her. Karen Fitzgerald. 6 months after moving in, she seized the HOA presidency and turned it into her personal empire. Overnight, the neighborhood went from friendly to fear-based. She fined people for grass height, banned wind chimes for noise control, and required written permission to plant a single flower not pre-approved by her so-called committee. But the worst part wasn't her rules, it was her corruption. Her brother-in-law magically became the paid landscape inspector. Her best friend got the pool contract. And when her cousin Margaret moved in for an extended stay, the HOA rulebook may as well have caught fire. I first noticed it one Saturday morning. Margaret wasn't just lounging by the water, she was building her own resort. Heavy-duty loungers. Tiki torches. Thumping music. A private jet ski ramp. All of it sprawled across what used to be shared space. I tried to reason. I walked over. Introducing myself. Politely reminded her that the beach and dock were community property. She smiled like a queen addressing a peasant and waved a paper in my face, an official easement reassignment signed by Karen herself. According to her, Margaret had exclusive rights to the lakefront because I only used it on weekends. When I read it, my stomach turned. It claimed a unanimous HOA vote, but I knew 2 board members were out of state that week. The whole thing reeked of something foul. And I was about to find out just how deep the rot went. Before I ever picked up that hammer, I did something else, something that would make Karen's empire start to crumble. I wasn't just angry, I was determined. So I did what any sane homeowner would do when the HOA starts acting like royalty. I went straight to the city. The city planning office and county property records confirmed what I already suspected: the lakefront wasn't under HOA control at all. It was deeded to specific properties, including mine. Karen's so-called reassignment was nothing but a forged fantasy dressed up in HOA letterhead. When I presented those findings at the next meeting, the room went dead silent. Karen's face flushed crimson as she clutched the podium like she could squeeze the truth out of it. Then came the performance, the shouting, the finger-pointing, the dramatic claims that the HOA had recently amended its bylaws to control all waterfront decisions. She waved papers no one had ever seen, claiming any challenge to the board now carried a $500 daily fine. But that wasn't even the craziest part. She conjured up another phantom bylaw supposedly passed in a special meeting that somehow existed in no records, no emails, nothing. Meanwhile, Margaret's private paradise exploded in size. Music thundered across the water from dawn to dusk. Trash piled up. Her jet ski ramp now looked like a monument to arrogance. And the moment that burned into my mind, my 8-year-old daughter walking back home in tears after Margaret physically blocked her from the beach, claiming it was private property. That was it. No more diplomacy. The following week, I buried myself in every document I could find: property deeds, the HOA charter, archived minutes, even old county filings. And when I finally pieced it together, the truth was ironclad: they had zero legal standing. The HOA charter explicitly stated that deeded rights could not be overridden, amended, or reassigned, not even by a board vote. What Karen had done wasn't just illegal. It was personal. So, I drafted a certified notice to both Karen and Margaret, 72 hours to clear their junk or face legal action. 3 days later, they showed up on my porch, Karen in her blazer, Margaret glaring behind oversized sunglasses, and a man who looked like he'd earned his law degree from reruns of Law and Order. They tried everything. Threats. Bribes. Karen even offered to waive my HOA fees for a year if I dropped the hostility. Margaret proposed we share the space Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays for her. Their lawyer muttered something about squatters' rights. I told them politely to leave. When the deadline passed, Margaret didn't just ignore it, she doubled down. Construction began on a permanent pavilion. That's when I launched Phase 2. I hired a licensed surveyor to mark the exact property lines. Sure enough, Margaret's kingdom sprawled deep across my half. And once the markers were in place, I ordered enough fencing to make a statement no one could ignore. The hardware clerk blinked when I explained where it was going. Word spread instantly. By the time I pulled into my driveway, whispers were flying through the neighborhood. And when people asked if it was true that I was building a fence, I just smiled and said, just marking property lines. They had no idea what that fence was about to set in motion. I didn't know it yet, but by sunrise, that fence would do more than divide a lake, it would end a rain. When the first light hit the water, I was already out there, boots in the sand, blueprints in hand. The crew moved fast, hammering and drilling as the fence stretched like a blade of justice straight through the heart of the beach. Every thud of the post driver echoed like punctuation to the months of manipulation I'd endured. Then came the audience. Margaret stumbled out first, clutching her coffee like it might save her morning. The mug hit the deck and shattered the moment she saw the wall rising between us. Moments later, Karen stormed down in a bathrobe and foam curlers, fury painted across her face. Behind her, the neighborhood gathered, drawn by the sound of chaos and revenge finally finding its form. Her meltdown was operatic. She accused me of vandalism, trespassing, emotional sabotage, even identity theft. She called the police. They left. She called city code enforcement. They left too. Eventually, I think she started dialing the Pentagon. Meanwhile, Margaret's resort was in ruins. Half her jet ski ramp was now a useless sculpture. Her speaker system sliced clean in two. Even her shade pavilion stood awkwardly on both sides, like it couldn't decide which team it was on. But the real show began that night. The emergency HOA meeting was standing room only. Karen had passed out flyers branding me the neighborhood menace, but instead of rallying support, it ignited a mutiny. One by one, homeowners stood up, voices steady, evidence in hand. A retired judge, Tom Harrison, dissected every illegal move Karen had made. Sarah Chen shared photos of her bulldozed flower beds. And then, the whispers became declarations. Karen's empire was crumbling in real time. Even Margaret's husband had enough. He arrived halfway through, saw the mess, and muttered that they were done. Within hours, her beach kingdom was being dismantled plank by plank. Karen's final act was desperation. She slammed her gavel and tried to declare an executive order to tear down my fence. That's when the board's attorney finally spoke calmly, coldly, and told her she'd crossed every legal line there was. The room went silent. Then came the vote. Unanimous. Karen Fitzgerald was out. It didn't stop there. A full audit exposed her embezzlement, the fake easements, the kickbacks to her family. 3 months later, she stood before a judge guilty on all counts. Probation. Community service. Restitution. $47,000 and her reputation, gone. When the gavel fell, she wept. And now, sometimes at sunrise, I sit on my deck with a cup of coffee, the same lake shimmering calm and quiet on the other side of that perfectly straight fence. It's peaceful again. Justice, measured in cedar and nails. Subscribe to see what happens when power finally meets its reckoning. Then like the video if watching Karen's empire crumble felt long overdue. Because in this neighborhood, peace never stays permanent.